Why did I choose to film this video as soon as it starts getting dark? Surprise, I'm back reading Reddit. Who would have bloody guessed? This time though, we're going to be reading true horror stories, apparently. Whether they're true or not, I have no idea, but they're on the subreddit true horror stories, so I'm just gonna have to take their word for it. We'll see how this goes. Real quick though, before I actually start reading these stories, if you want, you can like, comment and subscribe. It helps me out a bunch and I really genuinely appreciate it. Also, if you want, you can follow my Twitter. It's linked in the description and my @'s right there. I'm not gonna waste any more time. Right, first one is called I Found Someone Living Under My Couch. What? How can someone live under a couch? No, I genuinely can't. How would you not realise there's someone living? How? I was lucky enough to live in a large house when I was a kid. In brackets, my father was a physical therapist. My house had a side room towards the back side of the first floor. My siblings called it the second living room, because that's basically what it was. It had an old recliner, a small table, and a mid-sized couch. That's it, we hardly ever sat in there. One morning I woke up sick, told my mum, and she told me to take the day off from school and stay home. My siblings had to be at school and my parents worked, so that meant I had to stay at the house by myself. I laid around in bed for a few hours until around 10:30 AM when I heard steady walking coming from the first floor. I thought nothing of it at first and just assumed maybe my mum went in late like she did sometimes. I needed something to eat anyway, so I stood up and went downstairs to the kitchen. I made it about 3 feet in front of my kitchen's walk-in doorway when I locked eyes with not my mum, but a 6-foot tall man wearing raggy and ripped up clothes. No. I was frozen in fear. I just stood there. It was only a few seconds, but it felt like hours had passed. The guy just stood there and watched me too. No expression or anything. I eventually pulled myself out of shock and bolted for my bedroom upstairs. I didn't hear him following me, but I got into my bedroom and locked the door and moved my dresser in front of it anyway. I pulled out my phone and instead of calling 911 like I should have done, I called my mum. I screamed into the phone telling her someone was in the house trying to kill me. She told me to not leave my room for any reason and call the police, so I did. 15 minutes later, the police finally show up and I could see through my bedroom window. I watched them enter the house before I left my room to run down to them for safety. I told them everything that had happened. They did a quick search of the home and found nothing, not a single person or broken window/door. My parents both came home shortly after and were absolutely furious that the guy was not caught. I was extremely angry as well, but also relieved that I was alive. The police began packing their things, but as one of the last officers was on the way out, he noticed a Walmart bag sticking out from under the couch. It was that damn couch in the side room, and well, what do you know, we found hundreds of trash bags and a week-old rotting food under the couch, along with some other personal items like wipes, water bottles, and even a bag of piss. Oh my God. Whoever that man in the kitchen was had been living under our couch for weeks. I can't comprehend how none of my family members smelt any of the garbage that was piled up under there the entire time. The fact that he never made a single noise under there also baffles the hell out of me. We've since cleaned out that room completely and turned it into a breakfast nook with wooden chairs so no more shitheads can break in and find free housing in them. I go off to college in a few months, so I won't have to live in fear of that incident happening again much longer. But I still think about it every time I wake up with a cough. What? How does someone live under a couch? I need to see this bloody couch. How big is your couch for him to be able to live under it and for no one to notice for weeks? How does that happen? What on fucking earth? I'm never gonna be able to look at a couch the same again, or trust one in my life. Right, before I freak myself out too much, the next one is called The Attic, which for some reason really unsettles me. This did not happen to me, but to one of my good friends. He told me this story when we were sharing scary or unsettling things we'd experienced. I believe that it's true. He was turning ghost white as he continued telling the story and was close to tears when he finished. For the sake of making writing easier, I will write it from his perspective. I lived in a small bay town when I was younger, a town small enough to the point where everyone knows each other and any gossip would be consumed by the town in less than an hour. I had a friend who I would address as Jake and we did everything together. There wasn't much to do in a small town, so we'd usually play video games all night and drink if you could find any alcohol. No, Jake always talked about how he'd hear strange noises in his house at night, especially when he was alone. His house was old and apparently a murder had happened at that house and other people died there due to other causes such as an illness. Horror stories were common to keep children out of danger in small towns, or just for older kids to scare the young ones. I was 16 and Jake was 17 at the time. We had planned to stay up the entire night playing video games, eating snacks and drinking some beer. He had recently started talking more and more about odd things about his old house, but I brushed it off as him trying to scare me. Everything was normal when I walked to his house that night. We went to his bedroom, which was on the bottom floor of the house, and started our night. His parents were out that night, so we had the house to ourselves. About an hour in, I left his room to go use the bathroom. The bathroom was up a flight of stairs which opened to a hallway down the length of the house, with the bathroom being at the end of the hallway, and above it was a ceiling to the attic hatch. After using the bathroom, I noticed the ceiling hatch was open and thought it was strange, so I went back to Jake's room and told him. Both of us went back and just stared at it, trying not to show the uneasiness that was tying a knot in our stomachs. We closed it and turned off the upstairs light at the bottom of the staircase and went back into his room. An hour and a half later, Jake had to use the bathroom. Before leaving the room, he busted a joke about how the hatch was going to be open again, and as a joke in return, I'd said I'd walk upstairs with him to investigate. We turned the corner that led to the staircase, and the hair stood on our necks as we saw light shining down from upstairs. We looked up the stairs, seeing the wide open attic hatch. We slowly approached it and quickly closed it and ran down the stairs as fast as we could back to Jake's room, slamming the door shut and locking it. Neither of us had the stomach or bravery to hide our fear at that point. We were so paranoid that we slept in the same bed. We didn't hear any noises as we tried to sleep, but eventually I managed to drift off. Falling asleep, I woke up and found myself in a dream. The world was black and white and I realised I was in Jake's room, and it felt so realistic that I didn't even notice I was dreaming at first. I got up from the bed and something drove my body over to the window. Between two hedges which had previously not been there, a lady in a wedding dress stood below an arch that was overgrown with dead vines. She turned around and saw me and started to smile. At first it was not too creepy, but then her smile started getting wider and wider until it reached both of her ears. A ring filled my ears and then she started laughing. Something started scratching at the door that was to my back. But no matter how hard I tried, my eyes were locked on the lady in the dress. I could not move and I was paralysed with fear. At that moment I woke up, but I was on the couch in Jake's room and not his bed. His eyes were wide when he saw I was awake and asked if I was up any time during the night. Confused, I told him no. Then he told me that in the middle of the night I got out of bed and stared out the window with a wide grin on my face. He explained that after that I left the room and he heard a large thump. Then I came back into the room and fell asleep on the couch. Once we cleaned up that I left his room, our curiosity bested us and we decided to look upstairs, only to see that the light was on and the attic hatch was wide open. Oh no. No. I need to go and check my attic hatch. Oh, I can't be doing this. Right, I can confirm my house's attic hatch is closed, but I don't like it because our attic hatch is right outside my bedroom. Oh no, why did I read this one? Oh no! This is not the time for me to be hearing creepy noises outside. This is not the time. Why now? Alright, moving swiftly onwards because I don't want to speak about that anymore. This one is called Creeper in the Woods. This happened about 13 years ago when I was a sophomore in college attending a liberal arts school in Suffolk County, New York. Within the first month or two freshman year, I had found myself in a very tight-knit group of fellow theatre geeks. 6 guys, myself included, and 1 girl. And they all loved horror movies and ghost stories. Freshman year was tough, but we all held each other up and made a whole experience more endurable for one another. At the end of sophomore year, we decided that in October, as the Halloween season was ramping up, we would find a creepy wooded spot in a nearby town some night and scare the crap out of ourselves. We did some research and found out there was a particularly isolated area around 30 minutes away, infamous for paranormal sightings. Perfect. The 7 of us split into 2 different cars and headed out into the night. Allow me to set the scene. You turn off a busy main road, flooded with strip malls and restaurants and whatnot, and you are almost immediately greeted by complete darkness. Again, this area was very wooded and was essentially a large web of winding roads surrounded by trees. Very few streetlights and very few houses. Without a GPS or a good sense of direction, you could easily get lost in there. We all made sure to have fully charged phones and flashlights just in case. But the goal was to keep driving until we collectively decided to pull over and go exploring. So per the directions, we made a left off the main road, driving for 30 minutes or so into this dark network, picking directions at random, just getting intentionally lost. Our cars made a turn and to our surprise there was a huge log in front of us. We had reached a dead end of some kind, and there was nothing but trees beyond it. We all got out to see what exactly this was, stepped over the log and noticed 2 narrow trails leading in different directions. This seemed like as good a time as any to grab our flashlights and do some amateur ghost hunting. We flipped a coin and set off on the trail to the right. The trail was so narrow that we had to walk single file to avoid getting whacked by branches. For whatever reason, I ended up in the back. I'm usually pretty rational and level-headed, but I have to say, the further we went in, the more I was overcome with an uneasy feeling. I kept hearing sounds in the deep woods, unable to shake the feeling that we were being watched. But I seemed to be the only one who heard these things, so I shrugged it off as my imagination. And in any case, the whole point of us being there was to get scared. Not to mention the fact we were 7 able-bodied college students. What would we come across that could take us down? We headed down this trail for about 20 minutes, and just when I thought it would never end, we came to a massive clearing. And I mean massive. It was a large open field of unkept grass, comparable in scope of a golf course but not nearly as well manicured. Trees surrounded the entire field, which was so large we could not see the end from it from where we were standing. I was thrilled to get out of that narrow trail, but I don't think any of us were expecting to find an area so vast. One of us looked to the right and said, "Hey, check that out." We all turned and there was an old, dilapidated house several yards away. The house was completely dark with no cars or signs of anyone actually living there. We walked over and shined our flashlights at it, and sure enough, the windows and doors were all boarded up. I managed to peer between the boards on one of the windows, and what I could see was an old white couch covered in plastic, but otherwise empty room. Whoever used to live there, they were long gone. Because there was no way in, and because we all felt sufficiently creeped out by the house anyway, we decided to walk closer to the trail we had come in from, have a seat in the field, and figure out where to go next. We walked towards a narrow trail, but before we could sit, my friend Mark stopped what he was doing. His expression dropped and he pointed. We all turned, and on the very far side of the field, directly across from where we had come in, we could see someone tall, lanky and pale dancing among the trees. No, and by dancing I mean it was skipping around, grabbing a tree, swinging around it and then doing the same to another tree. I don't like this. Basically a do-si-do. The moon was so bright and the woods so dark, it actually took a second for us to all really understand what we were looking at. Jay, the 6'4" skeptic of the group, wasn't seeing it. I leaned into him, pointed in that direction and said, "Jay, look where I'm pointing. Don't you see that?" He squinted a bit, and the second he saw it, he gasped with everything he had, clutched my arm and whispered, "What the fuck is that?" Oh, I've just got shivers down my goddamn neck. No. Oh, it's getting darker. I don't like this. What happened next sent shockwaves through all of us. Whoever this was, they stopped dancing, looked in our direction and started charging straight at us. Without even thinking, we freaked and ran back to the trail. Yet again, Joe was the only one who didn't see what was happening. He shouted after us, "Guys, what is it? Where are you going?" After about 15 seconds of running like hell, I heard Jay scream, "Holy shit." I looked back and saw his flashlight following the rest of us into the trail. While the walk into the woods took about 20 minutes, we made it back to our 2 cars, hopped it in, and we were peeling away in closer to 5. Once we were a safe distance away, we pulled over, got out, and checked in with each other about what just happened. My heart was pounding, and I know everyone else was feeling the same way. Nearly 15 years later, we are all still friends, living in different states, yet keeping in touch through marriages, divorces, children, etc. Occasionally, out of the blue, one of us will send a group text to the others with something to the effect of, "The woods. That really happened that night?" It most certainly did. That experience will always be in the back of my mind, and I'm pretty sure it always will be. It is the one thing that resonates with me about that night. Whoever that was, they were dancing maniacally in the woods at 1 in the morning. And they ran directly for a group of young adults, not at all fazed by the fact that they were severely outnumbered. Did he know we were there from the second we parked? Was he the sound that I kept hearing when we walked the trail? Whatever the case may be, when he came for us that night, you can be sure none of us wanted to stick around and see what he was truly capable of. Oh my god. I'm not okay. I am not going to be able to sleep tonight. Alright, this is probably going to be the last one so I don't end up crying myself to sleep tonight. And this is called Always Trust a Mother's Intuition. I'll start by saying that nothing could have prepared me for what I was going to discover the morning after a night out. It started out as any other night would. Me and my family got ready to head to our local bar for a fundraising event. I had just turned 18 and was looking to having a chill night with my family and friends. I knew most of the people there, so I was feeling really relaxed. While at the bar, I went to pay for my drink when the bartender told me it had already been paid for. When I went to see who had paid for it, I saw my cousin's partner. He's around 12 years older than me, give or take. I gave him a quick wave and we did the normal niceties, like, "Hi, how are you doing?" It's important to note that I had barely spoken more than 2 words to him before, as he was usually quiet, or retreated in his room when we would go to visit my cousin. After saying thank you, I thought nothing of it. Nothing seemed off with our little interaction. By the end of the night, I had gathered my family together and told them I wanted to head home. At this point in time, I was still living at home with my mother. She had made plans to stay at my grandmother's that night, so I was going to go home and sleep. It was around 11:30 p.m. when I was outside having a smoke, about to head to my car. Just as I was about to head to my car, I heard someone call my name, so I turned to find my cousin's partner walking towards me. He asked if I was heading home for the night, which I thought was weird. So I said it's late, so I was calling it a night. Without skipping a beat, he mentioned the car that I drive and said he would see me around sometime. At this point, I got a bit creeped out, so I said goodnight and walked off to my car. There were plenty of people outside, so I wasn't concerned at all. Once I got in the car, my phone went off and it was my mother. She was begging and pleading me to go and stay at my grandmother's house for the night, saying that she had a really bad feeling. Initially, I was really annoyed. I just wanted to go home and go sleep in my own bed, but she insisted. I couldn't understand why. I was used to being home alone at night, but she wouldn't let it go. I hung up and started driving home. I couldn't be bothered going to my grandma's when my house was just down the road. I was tired and just wanted to go home. Not even halfway home, my phone went off, so I pulled over to check it. It was my sister asking me to please go stay at my grandma's house. I was pissed off at this point and decided it would be easier to go to my grandma's house instead of arguing with my family. When I got to my grandma's house, everyone was asleep, and I was really pissed off and went straight to sleep. The night was uneventful, but I woke up in the morning to my family talking about how they all had a feeling of dread, which is why they didn't want me to go home alone that night. My mother and I left for home at lunch. I felt off as soon as we pulled into the driveway. Once I got to the door, I found a police card wedged into the door to call them ASAP. I went inside and found my mother's camera on the kitchen table. This was a huge red flag as it was in my bedroom before we left for the fundraiser. I went to my room to find my entire room had been ransacked. No other room in our house had been touched. My blankets had been pulled up and it looked like someone had been in my bed. Oh no. My knickers drawer was wide open and some were also sprawled on the floor. Another camera of my mother's was also on the table where my TV was, which was directly opposite my bed. Clothes were everywhere. By this point, I was losing my shit. If I had gone home like the plan all along, I would have made my way through the house and then crawled into bed without switching my lamp on. I had done this so many times previously, and I wouldn't have seen the state of my room at all. My mother gave them a call to find out what happened, and what she told me made the blood drain from my face. Police were alerted to a break-in at our next door neighbour's house when our neighbours found a man wandering inside their house. The man had claimed he was my friend and went into the wrong house, but they chased him out. Our house had a big 8x12 metre deck which looked over to my neighbour's house. They called the police again when they spotted the same man having a smoke on our deck. Police arrived at the house at 2 AM, but since I wasn't home, no one answered the door. They noticed the lights on, so they went inside to investigate. They made their way through the house and found a man hiding in my bedroom in the dark. He couldn't give a reason why he was there or why he was hiding in my room. They had arrested him and taken him to the station and wanted to know if we knew him. Turns out it was my cousin's partner and he had been hiding in my bedroom for over an hour waiting for me to get home because he knew I was going to be home that night. My mother's gut feeling saved me from going home alone that night and my neighbour's vigilance helped me catch a creep. I always listen now without a question whenever she says she has a bad feeling. Who knows what would have happened? All I know is that it wouldn't have been pretty. He was charged with breaking and entering and spent some time in jail before being released and moving country. Always trust your mother's gut feeling, people. It sure saved me from having to deal with that. Oh my God. Right, that's enough of that. I am scared shitless. I'm going to watch SpongeBob, man. I really hope you enjoyed this video and that I didn't just get scared for nothing. If you did, then you can like, comment and subscribe or do whatever you think is necessary. I don't know anymore. I'll see you whenever I next see you. Bye bye.